Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Mark, a trainer here at WEX Field Service Management, and today we are covering payments and collections. This webinar will cover taking payments from the customer page, the difference between processing a payment and recording a payment, credits and refunds, payments without an invoice, unapplied payments, stored payment methods, customer statuses and how to put accounts on hold for non-payment, taking payments from the invoice level, searching for payments, sync statuses for payments, and how to send out payment reminders for collections, and then looking at your transactions and statements. We'll go over a little on user permissions so you can make sure your technicians have the right payment permissions out in the field, with a live Q&A at the end where you'll be able to get your questions answered live on stream. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into WEX FSM. And Brian, I see you have joined as well. Just to let you know, we are recording today's session, so you will be able to watch a replay of this. However, we're just getting started. So I'm about to hit my first topic point here, so you haven't missed a thing. Welcome, Brian. The first thing we're talking about today, as it relates to payments, is taking a payment from the customer page. A use case here, your customer calls you and would like to make a payment over the phone. Maybe you have a check in your hand that you need to apply to an invoice or just take that payment. Maybe someone is in your office and they'd like to take a payment in person. However, they would like to pay. One of the most simple ways to take a payment is to search for your customer. Let's say I'm looking for my customer, Justin. So I'm just typing his name in the search, the quick customer search in the top right, select his account, and then that brings me to his customer page. And this can apply to any of your customers that are in your customer list. It will start you on the timeline, which is going to show you all of the jobs you have done for them and any notes that you have on this customer. But we want to take a payment. So we're going to click to the payments tab. There's a lot of functionality here. We're actually going to go over each button and function. But the first thing we want to do is to take a payment for Justin here. We've got process payment, record payment. Those are the two main ways that you would take a payment in the system. You will also notice that these options are available on invoices as well. So if I create an invoice, I'll be able to process a payment or record a payment. The difference between these two, process payment is going to process through WEX FSM and send the money to your bank account. That would be manually entering or swiping a credit or debit card. If you have check processing, you can use checks or ACH, but essentially that will process through WEX FSM, saving you a trip to the bank. It'll just be sent to your bank account. Record payment is if you're processing outside of WEX FSM. A good example of this would be if someone pays you with cash. You can't process that through the app, so you would need to take that to the bank to get that into your account. Maybe you are using some other form of payment method, like Stripe, PayPal. You would be able to record that you took that payment. You could even put in the memo where you're processing that, but it will record that that payment was made. However, it will not process, so money will not be actually sent through WEX FSM with the record payment option here. Let's click on process payment. So an example here, if I want to process, the first thing I need to determine is which invoice do I want to take a payment on? This is going to show me all unpaid invoices. You can search for an invoice if you want, and then you can see the balances and invoice numbers here. Let's say we wanted to take a payment for this invoice. We would select that, and now that total has been added to our total payment. Let's say I'm holding a check to pay for the last 3 jobs we did for Justin. I would just go and find those 3 invoices and select them all. And now I can make a payment on multiple invoices at one time through this option here. Let's say for today, we will just take a payment for the one invoice. We'll scroll down and we can see I'm taking a total payment of $402.19. And then I have some options here. I can enter card information. You just enter their card info here. If I want to use their bank account information, I can get their account number, the routing number, and then take a payment via ACH. If they have any stored accounts, this test account I'm using doesn't have any right now, but if you did at one point store their information, you would be able to use stored accounts here. And then you can add a memo and click process payment. When you are processing payments, the way that works is you will take payments throughout the day, and that will go into a batch in terms of it being sent to your bank account. And for credit and debit card payments, those batches will settle and are typically funded the next business day. The cutoff for batching for credit and debit card payments is 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So you're processing payments throughout the day. Those are going into the batch for the day. Once you hit 9:30 p.m. Eastern, that is the cutoff for that day. That batch will then be processed through the night and be available in your bank account in the morning. For ACH or check payments, those are funded within 2 business days. So the cutoff for that is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So you're processing checks throughout the day. Those will be separate in a separate batch from your card payments. And then that batch for all of your checks for the day will cut off at 7 p.m. Those will batch, but it will take 2 business days. So not the next morning, but the morning after that should be in your bank account. So those are batching times for both processing cards and checks. Let's look at the record payment option. This is going to be exactly the same in terms of what you are doing and selecting. The biggest difference is this is just recording that you're taking a payment versus actually processing a payment. So I would select, let's say we want to pay for this invoice and then enter in the payment method. Let's say they're going to pay with a check. Enter the check number. Date received was today. You can add a memo here for historical record if you want, and then click record payment. We can see the total customer balance has went down. And then if we go to that job, you'll see that recorded payment has been applied to that invoice. Now, everything we've done so far has been taking a payment on an invoice. When you click process or record, it shows all outstanding invoices, and that's a very easy way to take payments is through the invoice. However, maybe there's a scenario where your customer is on the phone and they're ready to pay you right now, but you haven't drafted out the invoice yet. There's really not a scenario where you want to turn away money and tell your customer, well, I can't really take your payment right now. So you'll want to take that payment now, but you won't have an invoice to apply it to. You will want to use the payment without invoice option. So you can get that money on file, but then you can apply it to the invoice later after you build it out. So in that scenario, let's say someone is, or Justin here is ready to give me a payment of $100, but I don't have the invoice yet. I'll go ahead under payment without invoice, just put in the amount they'd like to pay. And then we'll select that they are paying with check. If they're over the phone, well, here, let's do that. So let's say they're paying over the phone with a Visa card. And then paying today. $100, and this will be a payment without an invoice. And let's hit record payment. If you notice here, there's a little yellow box, little yellow area. Click on that. And then we can see here is where our credits and payments without invoices will live. So we just took this Visa payment. Eventually, I'm going to want to build out the invoice so we can then attach this to the invoice so it has a home. When you're ready to do that, let's say I created the invoice, it's $100. Now I'm ready to apply the payment. I will just click on the edit button here. And I want to reassign this $100 payment to my $100 invoice, which I'm pretty sure I have one of those. There we go. So $100 invoice, $100 payment, but we're no longer taking a payment without invoice. So we're going to delete that amount. And now we're applying our original payment of $100 to the invoice we've selected, which is $100, and hit save. And there we go. We have now applied that unapplied payment to the invoice, and it has been removed from our unapplied payment section. We see there's some credits here. You can do credits and refunds from here as well. If I click on this, we have a couple options. We have credit and refund, which would do both at the same time, credit only or refund only. Adding a credit to the account is just like it says, you would have a credit that is applied to your account, but it's not applied to a invoice yet. So it would go into your unapplied payments section first, and then you can apply it later, like we just did. Refund is going to refund in the payment method that your customer originally provided. So if they paid with a MasterCard and you did a refund, that would refund to the MasterCard. If they paid with cash, then you would need to give them cash back. Let's look at credit only. Now from here, you can just instantly credit to an invoice if you want. Let's say that for this $100 invoice, let's select it. We want to give them 50% off. So we could give them a credit of $50. And then when I apply this credit, it's going to then apply that to the invoice, apply credit. And now we can see the balance of that $100 invoice after the $50 credit is $50. Then let's go back, add credit only. We can do credit without invoice. So we would just be applying a credit to their account, and that would sit there. We already have some examples of this. And that would sit here until you're ready to apply it with the edit pencil, apply credit to invoice. And that is credits. Now, let me check my notes here. Okay, good. So we have the yellow bar here, which is going to show us our unapplied payments and credits. But then we also have payments and credits by invoices. So this will show you the date and time, the invoice, the amount, the payment that was made, and the balance. And so as you are taking payments in your system, this is just showing an isolated timeline of those payments and some details about them, and a quick access to get to that invoice. Payment plans. If your customer is set up on a recurring payment plan for maintenance plans, those would show up here. So you can set up a maintenance plan, and then you can set that to be an until canceled plan, and then set up a recurring payment plan to happen. If you set up the recurring payment plan, you will store your customer's card information, set it to auto debit at an interval, let's say monthly, and each month it will take those payments and you'll be able to see those plan details from here. If you store any account information, that will be provided here. WEX FSM is PCI compliant, so you know that this information is secure in here. And any statements you have sent to your customer, those will show here as well. While we're on the customer page, so this is the payments tab. Very easy place for you to process, record, and add credits and refunds for payments. But if we scroll down, you will see on every customer page, you have some settings and preferences on the left-hand side. And I can actually determine what type of payment method I want to allow this customer to give me. And so if I do, let's say that this customer, I really only do big commercial jobs for, and I do not allow them to pay with a credit or debit card because the processing fees would be too high. So I just want them to pay me via check. So then I would select ACH e-check. And then if the customer tried to pay with a card, they wouldn't be able to. This is making it to where they can only pay through the method provided. Some of my customers don't use this at all, so you would just leave it as all and you're good to go. If you do need this, it is here. You can also adjust the default payment terms. Maybe for my single family residential customers, we're doing due on receipt. But for my commercial customers, I want it to be a net 30. If my default payment if my default payment terms is due on receipt in my system, I can customize for this individual customer for it to default to something different by setting that here. All right. And if we scroll to the top, right here in the top right, we have active. If I click on this, we can see there's an inactive status and account on hold. There may be times, unfortunately, where customers will not pay their bill. And you don't want to service someone again and again if they're not paying you. And so you may want to put an account on hold, and you would do that from here. Once selected, you won't be like this customer is now on hold. So even someone who doesn't know, they won't be able to create appointments for this customer. You won't be able to make new jobs for them until their, balance has been paid and you set them back to active. But that's a great way just to make sure you and your team are in the know that this account's on hold. And probably the example would be because they owe you money and you want to collect on that before serving them again. All right. So what we have gone over so far is details about payments all from the customer page. But you can also take payment from an invoice, and you can take payment from an invoice from the desktop side while you're in the office or out in the field through the mobile app. We're going to just skip over real quick to a job. And let's see. Well, let's go to the schedule page, just for a realistic scenario. Let's say that I know that my technician, Dustin, has gone out to this appointment and we need to take payment because he has finished this appointment. I'm just going to hover over the appointment and go into the job for this no AC call. Whether I have created the invoice in the office or Dustin has created the invoice out in the field, we, from the job level, want to take a payment on the invoice. So I have an invoice here. I'm just going to open the invoice by clicking on the invoice number. And based on the job you're doing, you would, hit add item, access your price book, build out the invoice. Once you have that, scroll to the bottom. And this is where you find your payment options for taking payment on the invoice. Pay now is the process payment option where it is going to process through WEX FSM and send the money to your bank account. Record payment is if you're taking, that cash payment or you're processing somewhere else outside of WEX FSM. You can also send this to your customer. So let's say I wanted to send this to Emily. Just determine who this is going to. You can add more recipients here if you want or need to. And then click send invoice. That will be sent out to the customer. Let's get rid of Brandon. We'll just send it to Emily. Emily will then receive a message and she will be able to open that, review the invoice, and make a payment online on her own time. That will also process through WEX FSM. So that is the same batching rules we talked about earlier as the process payment option. Cool. And so once that payment has been made from the customer, you will see that payment below here in the payments and credits section. This will be automatically update and change to paid, and the invoice status will go to signed if they have signed it. If they don't sign it, then it will just go to closed. But you can also take a payment directly from here. I don't even need to open the invoice. Let's record a payment, and it's 14988-1. So we're going to hit record payment, and we're looking for 14988-1. There it is. We'll select our invoice. We'll select our payment method and date and click record payment. And there we go. So there's kind of two ways that you can take a payment from the invoice. If the invoice is open, scroll to the bottom and you've got your payment options there. If the invoice is closed and you're on the job page, you can either process or record payment with these buttons here. Either way, the documentation of the payment will show up here. And then that will also show up in your reporting, which we'll look at some reporting options in just a little bit. All right. Perfect. So let's look at how you can search for payments, look at sync statuses, and then let's get into some collections on how you can send out payment reminders and have a good total overview of all your invoices in your system. We will start by going to Jobs in the main navigation in the top and Payment List. So if we go down right here, Payment List. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a big list of all of your payments in your system. And this is a great way to quickly search for a payment. Maybe you have a payment amount, an invoice number, a customer written down on a sticky note, and you want to search, you can just use the search bar here to search all payments in your system. You can look at your payments by date range. So right now we have just the month of March, and then you can look for payment type, payment method. Maybe I know someone paid with a Visa yesterday. You would just look for all Visa payments in your system. Payment status, and then you are able to see the auto sync status. Now, if you're syncing to QuickBooks, every time you take a payment, that payment will go into WEX FSM. You'll be able to see it here on the payment list, and then that will sync down to your QuickBooks, and you'll be able to see that in your QuickBooks. However, maybe there's some information missing. Maybe there's something that's preventing that sync from happening. You can easily see that from the auto sync status here. So if you take a payment in WEX FSM, you go to your QuickBooks and you realize, hey, wait a minute, I don't see this payment here. I would search for that payment here and see if there is a sync status telling you that there is an error. You would hover over, it'll tell you what it's looking for. You can click the red drop down here, which will give you some more payment details. And if you click the three red dots right here, you can edit, change customer, refund, or delete the payment right from here. So you can manage payments in bulk from the payment list. Next, let's take a look at the receivables report. To get to the receivables report, we need to first go to reporting. So it's in this main navigation, kind of right in the middle here. Click on reporting. And then from the original reporting page, we want to look for the receivables report. That is in the accounting section. And you'll click on receivables. If you are the person in charge of collections, making sure that invoices are sent and bills are being paid, this is going to be your best friend. You're going to love this report. This will show you all receivables, so all invoices in your system at a glance. But then you can start to dial that in by date range, job type. Maybe I want to see all installs that we did this month. And it gives you filtered totals. So I can see we did 2 install jobs. And if you're tagging your technicians, you'll be able to see which technician performed that job. And it gives you a lot of good information about each of those jobs and filtered totals. So I can see in the month of March for installs, I have over $6,000 in invoice totals. And we can also see, oh, yes, payment status. So right here, we can see both of these are overdue. So we need to collect on those invoices. So just some search options where you can kind of dial in what you're looking for. I want to see how much money we made in installs. I want to see how much money a single technician has pulled in for all jobs that they've done last month. Get creative here in what you want to look for. But a big purpose of this page is to send payment reminders and encourage your customers to pay their bill. The best practice to do this would be I want to search for payment statuses that are overdue. That means that it's past the due date on the invoice. So we officially have for the month of March over $17,000 out there in the world that we need to collect on. And all of this is overdue. So these customers officially owe us for the jobs we've done for them. To send payment reminders, click Select All and Send Invoices. Now you can individually select if you want, but Select All is nice. Send it in bulk. And then this, once you hit Send, will send a payment reminder out to your customer, just reminding them that they have an overdue balance. And it's really nice when you send this out in bulk, and a lot of people pay their bill all at one time. Now, when you send those, it will put a notification of the last time it was sent. So if you can't quite remember, maybe, in this scenario, I clicked select all, but then I realized, oh, wait, the fourth, I pretty recently sent one to these customers, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck those. And this one I sent the 6th, so I'm going to uncheck that one. So you can get customized here, and it is nice to know the last time you did send a reminder to the customer. All right. If you want to, you can. Most of our reports will allow you to download the report if you need to. When you click download, you can download as an Excel file or a PDF file. And that is true for any instance where you see the download button. All right. So we've talked a lot about transactions in your system, processing transactions, recording payments. It'd be nice to have a place where I can see all of my transactions in one place. And to do that, we will go to payment options, activity, transactions. That will bring you to the transactions page. And this is essentially giving you the option to filter through all payment transactions in your system. You can search by cards, by checks, by if you are using financing and you're paying for jobs with the financing, you can search through those as well. Payments made from their bank account, credit or debit card, or just all payments in general. And then once you have that filter selected with your date range, you can then show or hide different statuses of payments from here. Any changes that you make sure you hit refresh to apply those changes, and then that will update what you see below. And from here, it's very simple. You can just see whether which settlement batch this payment was included within, the payment status, the payment amount, the customer, and then their payment method type. And if it was a payment that was applied to an invoice, you'll see the invoice number here as well. But this is just a great place to see your overall transactions in your system. Now, if you are looking for statements, that would be payment options, activity, statements. And then processing statements will show your processing fees that you pay from processing through WEX FSM. So each time you process a payment, there is a processing fee. And then that is a separate fee from your monthly subscription. If you want to look at what those processing fees are, those would be here in your processing statements. And it does come out monthly, typically in the first week of each month, I believe. And then statements will show a statement of your subscription. And so processing statements is for card processing, check processing, the amounts you're paying for processing. The WEX FSM statements will show you your subscription. If you're subscribed to Profit Rhino, any add-ons that you have, check processing, text messaging, whatever your actual monthly subscription is, it will show you what you're paying for that. So do a little investigation on how much it's costing you on the WEX FSM side for your subscription. All right. And The final section that we're going to go over is just some user permissions. We can take payments. We've seen different ways you can take payments, but for your users, you're going to want to set permissions to make sure that each user has the permissions to make or not make the payments in your system that you want. To do this, we will go to Settings, User Management, Users. That will bring you to the Users page. Any user you have added will show here. And let's use our field technician, Dustin Bailey, as an example. So I'm just going to click on Dustin's name. That will open his user profile. And as it relates to payments, let's scroll down to permissions. And there's just a couple things here that will, either provide access or deny access to certain functions. Manually enter cards. Do I want this user to take payment via card and be able to manually enter that? Perform credits and voids. Do I want them to be able to manage recurring payments and perform financing actions? So these four in the center here relate to payment options in your system. And maybe you have manually enter cards set to no on accident for somebody. They call you up, hey, I'm trying to take a payment right now and it's not working. I'm not sure what's going on. One of the first things I would check is right here. Do they have entering cards, taking a card payment in the field turned on? If you set it to no, it's just going to prevent them from doing that action. So maybe you don't want your technicians to just on their own provide credits or void payments. Maybe that is like a managerial office task only. So you can set that to no if you want. But once you make those adjustments, make sure that you hit save. There's been a lot of times I'm busy, I make a bunch of changes and I just X out and then it doesn't save. You got to make sure you click save. All right. So there you have it. That is all the information that we have for today's presentation. We're going to go into our Q&A now. So any questions you have, go ahead and throw those in the chat. But before we dive into that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for joining. My name is Mark with WEX Field Service Management, and this has been Payments and Collections.